Welcome to Stories My Mother Told Me. The title of today's story is The Golden Rule. Once upon a time, in the small town of Bluebell, two orphans named Travis and Lucas struggled to survive the unforgiving streets. Their parents had passed away when the boys were toddlers. They were raised by a distant relative and his wife who took pity on them. They both lived normal lives as this relative is the only parent they remember. They grew up to be best of friends, and you will never see one without the other. When the boys turned 13, life became very tough for their guardians, and they realized how unrealistic it will be for the boys to survive the harsh living conditions with them. One day, they called the boys and told them about their current situation and how hard it will be for all four of them to survive. He gave them some money and asked that they travel to their mother's village, and hopefully some of their mother's people might take them in. Him and his wife packed all that was necessary for the trip and bid them farewell. The boys expressed their gratitude and promised to come back for them when things get better. They all wept and parted ways. Travis and Lucas started the journey, venturing into the unknown. They had so many unanswered questions in their hearts. As they traveled, they would chase after birds, hunt for fruits, and do all that boys their age would normally do. After walking for a few hours, they came to an unusually vibrant village. The boys were carefully observing the people, and they couldn't help but notice how different they were. From their mode of dressing to how they communicated with each other, everything seemed unusual. As they delved deeper into the village, they came to the market. It was busy and bustling, filled with merchants from far and wide. The boys wondered what it is that is attracting all these people to this seemingly small village. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't figure the main commodities that is traded there. And again, the people weren't speaking in layman terms. The boys looked at each other. Travis, being the oldest, told Lucas to stay close and not say anything other than buying food, as they were already famished. Lucas nodded in agreement, and they walked up to the food seller and asked for bread. The man handed the bread over and told them that it cost $10 each. They were taken aback and asked if the price is non-negotiable. The man continued staring at them as if waiting for his money. Travis then asked that they pay $5 each like they would normally pay back home. He still had words in his mouth when the seller started screaming, "Thieves! Thieves! Thieves!" A crowd assembled and grabbed the boys. Some started hitting them while others were throwing stones at them. They tried to explain, but the people were engrossed in the beatings and no one listened. Finally, a man who appeared to be a leader came forward and asked the boys what happened. Lucas, seeing his brother almost lifeless, quickly catches his breath. Knowing that this might be their only opportunity to be rescued, he spoke up and related all that transpired. The so-called leader took a deep breath and said, "Well, in our village, you do not bargain anything. Whatever price is given is final. Bargaining is paramount to stealing. Hence, you both are thieves. The penalty for stealing is slavery." The boys were helpless, And the more they pleaded, the more beatings they got. And just like the speed of light, their lives took a cruel turn. They were taken away by a ruthless gang and sold into slavery. Separated and sent to different corners of the world, their lives unfolded in stark contrast. Travis found himself in the flourishing city of Basswood, in the house of a very powerful king named Atticus. Atticus and his queen have been married for 10 years without having any children. They have tried everything possible to have babies, but to no avail. Desperate to have an heir, he decided to adopt a son. So he sent his men to find him one. His men ended up with Travis and brought him to the palace. The king and queen immediately fell in love with him, and before long, he became a very important part of their lives. They adored him and treated him like he'd been in their lives since childhood. They introduced him to their people as their son and the prince of the kingdom. Just like that, his life went from being a slave to the most important person in the village. Despite this happy life, his heart longed to find his brother. He will always ask the king's tradesmen if they've ever come across anyone that could be his brother. But every time, the response remains the same. He would recall the special bond they both shared and how they've been there for each other since they were babies. Lucas is the only true friend he had known all his life. Words reached King Atticus about Travis' search for his brother. So one day, the king asked him about it, but he was terrified to speak, fearing that this would hurt his parents. But the king urged him to speak, and eventually he told him everything. King Atticus was determined to find Lucas. So he brought in the best artists that lived and asked that he drew a portrait of Lucas as Travis described. After that, he sent out the portraits to all the surrounding villages and communities, hoping that someone will recognize him. But all his efforts to find Lucas proved abortive as no one ever reported seeing him. Lucas, on the other hand, found himself in the opulent city of Brooks, serving a wealthy and cruel merchant named Lord Harrington. He worked day and night, and the slave masters punished him with rods and gave him very little food. Despite the harsh conditions, Lucas' spirit remained unbroken. Every time he got beaten, he would pray and hope that his brother isn't going through a life as difficult as his. He remained optimistic that one day things will turn around for him and he will find his brother. Several years had passed and the boys have grown to be young adults. In the kingdom of Basswood, Travis had become king since his adoptive father, the king, had passed away. But because of how he was pampered and overly indulged, he grew up to be very dominating, arrogant, and heartless. He only does what he wants and gets away with everything he does. Lucas, however, was still living as a slave, but because of his wit and positive disposition, he gained the favor of one of the slave masters who promised to help him escape. After several failed attempts to get him out, they finally succeeded. The slave master made his colleagues fall into a deep sleep, gave Lucas the key to the gate, and helped him run away. His many years of labor seemed to be coming to an end. On the night of the escape, the slave master asked one of his colleagues working in another village to assist Lucas get away and find him another place to work. He met with Lucas and took him away to their village. Can you guess what village it was? Yeah, you are absolutely correct. That is Basswood. and the king is none other than his brother. When they got to Basswood, Lucas was taken to the royal home. He was told that he'd be working as a palace guard. He befriended some of the servants and he curiously asked what kind of person the king was. He heard so many horrible things about the king, and for a moment he wished for something different. After 1 week, the king finally granted him audience. He asked Adam to bring in Lucas. They both arrived at court, and Adam put in good words on his behalf and told the king that Lucas can work as one of his trusted guards. Lucas immediately recognized his brother. He could not believe it. He tried all he could to contain his emotions. Travis, however, barely looked at him and he said, "Take him away. Let him work in the mine with his legs. I cannot have someone like him follow me around. I'd be too embarrassed to introduce him as my guard. Take him away, shh, shh." At this point, tears were rolling down Lucas' cheeks. He was in shock. He couldn't believe that this was his brother, and he did not recognize him. But most importantly, he was wondering how his once loving brother turned into this person. Adam was watching him the whole time and immediately concluded that he was overwhelmed at the king's harsh words. So he told him not to worry and that he will try to convince the king at a more appropriate time. But Lucas immediately said, "No, no, 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 no. Please don't do that. I will work in the mine. At least I won't be working as a slave." Lucas ended up in the remote mining town of Basswood, forced to toil in the treacherous mines day in and day out. Lucas faced the brutality of the overseers and the ever-present threat of cave-ins. His dreams of freedom flickered like a distant candle in the dark tunnels. However, Lucas possessed a quiet resilience that refused to be extinguished. He again befriended the slaves and inspired them not to give up in their struggles. As the days passed, Adam sought audience with the king again and told him positive reasons why Lucas should be taken from the mines to work with him. Travis finally succumbed and Lucas was brought in. In an attempt to make him go away voluntarily, he will talk down at him and use demeaning speech. He will make him wash his feet and clean up after him. He made Lucas do all kinds of derogatory tasks. He just took pleasure in belittling his brother. All this time, Lucas was seeking for an opportunity to reveal himself to the king. But each time an opportunity presents itself, he will always hold back in fear as he don't know how his brother will take it. Hence, he never divulged this information. Every day after work, when alone in his quarters, he will sing this song. "My name is Lucas. We are two brothers. We both went to the market of Greenwood and we made a bargain on bread. They said we've stolen and we were sold as slaves. One was sold to the left and the other was sold to the right. One became a mighty ruler and the other was meant to clean after his own brother. This is the story of my life." He will sing this every single day in his chambers. Every time, Adam, whose room is nearby, will listen carefully. So one day he asked him what's the meaning of his song, but he refused to tell him the story. This kept bothering Adam until one day he could no longer endure the burden and he pressured Lucas and forced words out of him. Lucas, out of duress, revealed everything. Adam, in disbelief, was in haste to go tell the king everything. But Lucas pleaded with him not to. He feared what might happen should the king not believe him, or should he not want to have anything to do with him. Adam listened to him and did not go to the king. But throughout the night he couldn't sleep. He was disturbed about the whole situation. The next evening, when he knew Lucas had retired to his room, he invited the king, his friend, to his own room, and before long, Lucas started singing his song as usual. Adam, pretending to be hearing it for the first time, asked that they both pay attention and listen to the song. Travis began to shiver and tremble. He fell to the ground and let out a loud cry. "Is it really my brother? Is it really Lucas?" Then he buried his face in shame. He leaned towards Adam and asked, "How do I face him? How do I handle this situation? I have been so mean and unkind to my brother." Adam finally spoke. He asked him how certain he is that Lucas is his brother. Then he suggested the king speak to Lucas and vet him first before drawing any conclusions. That evening, Travis instructed his most trusted man to transform Lucas from a servant to someone very important. He asked that he be groomed and be given the king's most expensive attire and brought to the royal courtyard. Before long, Lucas was presented before the king. Travis hid his face in shame and asked Lucas who he is and where he is from. Lucas had only said 2 words before the king broke down, crying uncontrollably. He hugged his brother and knelt down, pleading for forgiveness. Lucas also couldn't control his emotions. Seeing how hurt his brother is feeling, he also began weeping, bawling his eyes out. Witnessing how things are unfolding, Adam asked everyone present to leave the brothers alone. This reunion sparked a transformative realization in Travis' heart, and he reasoned that his brother may never forgive him. However, Lucas accepted his apology and they reminisced about their teenage years and all they had experienced. But he also told Travis that kindness isn't relative. He reminded him of the saying, "You do not throw stones if you live in a glass house, as you may not know when it hits your own house." You should be kind to everyone, not just people you love. Humanity is everyone's responsibility. Only then can goodwill pass on to everyone. Travis realized his mistakes and made up his mind to correct his ways henceforth and apply the golden rule, which says, "Treat others as you would love to be treated." The brothers were united, and Travis ruled the kingdom under the shrewd guidance of Lucas, his capable assistant. Lucas also dedicated himself to philanthropic efforts, helping to improve the lives of the less fortunate in the city. Together, they devised a plan to bridge the gap between the privileged and the oppressed, seeking a future where no child will suffer the same fate they had endured. And the people lived in peace and happiness. This story my dad told me. Now, let's look at some of the words we've learned in this story. The first is reminisce. This word means to recall to mind a long forgotten experience, or the process or practice of thinking or telling about past experiences, or simply put, a remembered experience. The next word is divulge. It means to make something known, such as a confidence or a secret, or simply put, to reveal a secret matter to the public. The next word is indulge. This word means free to do whatever one wants or to treat with excessive leniency. He's indulged. Then we have flickered. It means to appear or pass briefly or quickly. It flickered before my eyes. Then the next word is optimistic. This word means feeling or showing hope for the future. She's optimistic about her future. And then we've got negotiable. It means open to discussion or dispute. Is the price negotiable? Then the final word is philanthropic. This word means charitable or to do good. Well, these are some of the few words we've learned in this story. There are lots more, but we picked out this few. Did you learn something new? If you enjoyed watching this video, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends as these help us grow. Thank you, and see you in our next story. Bye!